Welcome back, listeners. I'm David Hensley, captain of the SS Long Walk Tonks Lost, currently docked near a strange island somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. I'm not going to be able to use that intro for much longer. I'm joined tonight by my bosun,
Cara Hayes,
and my first mate,
Robert Bradford. All hands abandon ship.
And we are continuing our Lost 20-year retrospective podcast, now in Season 4, on the season finale. Wow, we got here pretty quick, didn't we?
Like I said, this season is a roller coaster going almost all just acceleration.
Yeah, and because of the shorter release schedule, we covered the entire episode, or covered the entire season in 4 sittings.
Wow.
4 episodes of this podcast. I was reflecting on that on my way here. It's like, hey, yeah, we started on that earlier this month.
Oh, wow.
Was that? No, 5 episodes.
I was going to say.
Okay, 1 through 3, 9, 12. Yeah, no, 5. But still.
That's not a lot.
Yeah.
Compared to the first 3 seasons. Yeah. So tonight we are discussing episodes 412 through 414. There's No Place Like Home, parts 1 through 3. But first, we had another themed cocktail cooked up for us by Robert Bradford. Robert, tell us what we were drinking at our viewing party.
So because the name of this episode, There's No Place Like Home, is an allusion to the Wizard of Oz, I actually looked up some Wizard of Oz themed cocktails. I tried looking at like Lost themed cocktails, but most of them just seemed to be like, drink Southern Comfort for Sawyer or whatever. It didn't seem that interesting, so I've been branching out a bit. But yeah, I found a cocktail called the Yellow Brick Road, and in deference to Cara, who is not as big of a whiskey fan as David and myself, this one is actually a rum cocktail. It's rum, banana liqueur, lime juice, and simple syrup. It's one I'm going to keep experimenting with because it came out very kind of margarita tasting. Like the lime was very forward, so initially it was equal parts lime and simple syrup and liqueur, and now I want to mix that around a little. Didn't hate it, but it didn't taste like I expected.
I still enjoyed it, and I ended up finishing Cara's and my own. So
Mostly because I was too distraught.
It's true. Cara was the most distraught we've seen her so far. That's going to be fun to get into.
Another difference between you and me, Cara, is that being distraught makes you less inclined to drink.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a good point.
yeah. I mean, the only thing right now that makes me want to drink is my job, and they don't let me do that during the day.
Yeah, most workplaces frown upon that.
I don't see why. I'm fucking hilarious.
Well, let's not fret about work. Instead, let's talk about Lost season. I'm not really going to break these episodes up. It's basically one long episode that takes place, all 3 parts, over days 99 through 100. But if we take into account the opening of this episode, really 99 through day 108 when they are rescued. Which is weird because I mention it later. I'm going to have to remember not to read this note. So sometimes we put things in the notes that we mentioned early and then we get to them and we're like, oh yeah, we already said this, whatever. These put an end to the whole like keeping track of what day it is on the island thing for me, which is, I don't know why, I've just been fascinated by that.
Well, it's going to be kind of impossible in season 5 for reasons we'll get to when we cover that.
Yeah, very much so. That season is all over the place, literally and figuratively. But right off the bat, we see that the Oceanic 6 are being transported to an Air Force base, and Robert got really excited about one person in particular.
It was a guest star that I'd completely forgotten about because I don't think she appears again after this 3-parter, but yeah, it is genre actress extraordinaire Michelle Forbes, who done a lot of sci-fi and fantasy stuff. She was on Star Trek The Next Generation, Battlestar Galactica, True Blood. She was on the first season of The Killing. Just wonderful actress, but I just, my favorite role of hers will always be Admiral Kane on the Battlestar Galactica reboot, where she just uses her awesomely, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a deeper kind of, not quite hoarse voice, but she always sounds like she's just finished yelling at somebody before she gets on camera. And I just, love seeing her. In this case, she's playing the sort of the representative from Oceanic Airlines who's escorting the 6 to Hawaii for the press conference where they'll be revealed to the world. But yeah, I freaked out a little bit when I first saw her. I was like, oh my gosh, she is in this.
Well, on board this aircraft transporting them to the Air Force Base, we see the Oceanic 6 in the cargo holds, and none of them look as excited as you'd think they'd be to be rescued. We'll find out why in about an hour and a half. Showtime, hopefully not our time, although I think all three of us are very much aware this is going to be probably going to be a longer episode than normal. But as they are basically like getting their stories straight before landing and having to do a press conference, Jack tells them, we all know the story. And I just leaned forward and went, do we, Jack? Because at this point, no, we don't.
He tries to offer the sort of helpful tip that if the questions are getting too much to handle or they can't think of how to respond, just say you were in shock. And Sun, who we find out is just still less than a week from watching her husband die, as far as she knows, goes, we are in shock, Jack. Jack's infamous lack of bedside manner towards Sun is just going to be a recurring thing in this episode.
Very much so. And this next note that I took isn't actually correct anymore. I took it at the beginning of 412, but I put down the episode starts with the chronological end of the three-parter, which isn't exactly accurate because we do see a little bit past them getting rescued, like Hurley's birthday party and such. But the beginning of this episode and the end of part 3 create a nice little loop that lead directly into each other.
Yeah, that the on-island stuff is moving towards the place that gets the Oceanic Six to where they are at the beginning of the flash forwards. I don't want to break too much into this because it would have had to be a lot of research, but there's a neat thing this season does overall with the flash forward structure, because we started the end of season 3 with Jack all the way flash forward into the we have to go back, Kate. And I don't think it's neatly everything earlier than that, but a lot of them do bring us closer and closer to the past moment when the Oceanic Six return. That, we see Saeed working for Ben before we see the episode where Ben actually recruits him. We see Hurley go to Santa Rosa before we see him, free in the world and traveling to see Sun's daughter and all that. So there's kind of a funnel effect of the season moving the on-island stuff towards the escape of these 6 characters and their flash forwards moving backwards and bringing them to this press conference and their escape from the island. Again, I don't think it all lines up. I think there are a few sequences that don't take place neatly in that order, but like Kate's trial, I think, happens earlier than a lot of stuff later in the flash forwards. But it's still a very nice bit of plotting that they do just to kind of guide us to this place where it all comes together.
Fun fact, somebody on Lostpedia, we're going to bring this up at the end of the episode, but somebody on Lostpedia compiled when all of these flash forwards take place chronologically, and Kate's trial takes place in June of 2006.
And they got back when?
January of 2005. So it took a year and a half for her to go to trial.
Okay, that actually sounds appropriate.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're ever interested, they've got, including a day-by-day up to day 108 when the Oceanic Six get discovered.
God bless those nerds.
I know. I'm just sad that I didn't do it first. Anyway, on to you, Robert.
But yeah, it's interesting to see that obviously Sun kind of highlights it with her reminder to Jack that, some of them have just suffered devastating personal losses. But really everybody on there looks sort of shifty, and they're directing some not quite hostility towards Jack. Again, we're going to see sort of the decisions Jack made and the leading up to their escape, but very quickly they're setting up like, when did Jack lose the confidence of everybody else on that aircraft? Like at what point in the events of their departure? A neat thing is that after 4 seasons where Hawaii has had to play, the desert of Iraq, it's had to play Korea, it's had to play spots all over the world, Hawaii gets to play Hawaii because that is where the Oceanic Six return to U.S. soil and where they hold their press conference. So, finally a tip of the cap to the lovely state that, hosted the filming. I didn't really take many notes on it, the press conference itself, but it is kind of neat to have a layout of, okay, this is the official account of the survivors, including like a map of which island they supposedly washed up on, which island they were rescued from, how they explained their survival and all that. And then afterwards, they're reunited with their families. I say there's Sun's reunion with her parents, which is kind of cool. I mean, cool in like the icy sense, not in the nifty sense. But Hurley's mom and dad are there to hug him, and it's really sweet how as soon as he's done, he immediately turns and like beckons Saeed over so he can introduce Saeed to his mom, Which is just what a sweet moment. Just that everybody still loves Hurley, and Hurley is, just he really wants his mom to meet this awesome guy who saved his life so many times on the island.
Hurley and Saeed really do grow to have a really cool, fun dynamic over this season, and then that's going to continue throughout the next one as well. However, I didn't notice it, and I don't know if you did or not, Robert, but when Jack is reunited with his mom, all three of the girls in the room, Cara, Gina, and Katie, all immediately noticed how much she resembled Kate, which makes me wonder if that was intentional on the casting director's part or if it's just a happy little accident.
I don't know, but the kiss that she plants on him was kind of gross.
That felt very European.
I mean,
Kate to Jack or his mom to Jack?
Jack's mom to Jack.
Yeah.
It was like...
little Oedipal. And so on the island, pre-rescue, which is what this whole thing is building up to, Jack decides he wants to go off after the helicopter, and naturally Kate is going to go with him. And Juliet, being the voice of reason among these idiots, tries to tell Jack, you just had a major surgery, you shouldn't do that. And of course he's going to do it anyway. But we get our first tempting fate watch of the episode where Jack says to Juliet, I'll see you in a couple hours. No, Jack, you won't. You won't see Juliet for another 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And but once this trek gets underway, we get sweaty panty Jack back in full effect. The makeup artist, after like a full season of not getting to do it, he gets covered in sweat and grime and like
blood.
Yeah, Kate notices the spreading red stain in his abdomen, and Jack tries to explain, it's just a discharge. It means my body's fighting the infection. Yes, Jack, the giant spreading red stain on your shirt means you're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
And right after this, they run into Sawyer and Miles in the woods, which is where we get our first Sawyer nickname check. I'm just going to do all of these at once throughout this first episode, and then I got another check-in for him later. But he calls Miles Genghis. Like, come on, Sawyer. But then later in the episode, he refers to the barracks as New Otherton.
I like that.
I did too, yeah. I wish we had thought about or remembered that like a season and a half ago. And then it's an easy one, but I like it. He calls Frank Shaggy.
Yeah.
It's appropriate.
We do get a nice moment where so they've also got Aaron with them, so they give Aaron to Kate and tell her and Miles to just get him back to the beach and to safety. And Jack is going to keep going after the helicopter. And after a moment's indecision, Sawyer goes after him, specifically saying, you don't get to die alone, which is a callback to Jack's recurring thing, and also a call forward to Jack's ultimate fate on the show, and which is, that's the moment that I'm going to cry at when we get there. I'm just putting that marker down now.
No, we cannot watch that during the week.
Kara's just going to preemptively cry through the whole thing.
Listen, that's pretty much what I did when it was on.
You're going to be crying before you get to whoever's house we watch it at, either me or Robert's.
Oh, absolutely.
In fact, we might have to come here and watch it at your house.
So I can just melt into a puddle on my own floor?
Yeah, basically. So at the press conference that the Oceanic Six go to in Hawaii, we get to hear the plan the story that they concocted, which includes on day 103, a lifeboat washed up to shore on the little island that they were washed up to originally and spent 103 days on. And so then they spent 5 days at sea, and on day 108, they were rescued on a different island. And like I said, that ends our ability to track the dates, sadly for me, the nerd.
We do have kind of a fun moment where as soon as they open the floor to questions, all the reporters start asking a mix of things that fans have been wondering both about the show itself and its timeline on the island, such as one person saying, you all look pretty healthy for having spent 100 days on a deserted island, which, yes, we get it. They're all beautiful TV stars. And then I think somebody else quickly has done the math and tracking the claim that Aaron is Kate's child notes that would have made her 6 months pregnant when she was arrested in Australia. So it's, again, nice to have people in universe calling out some questions about how the phony story doesn't make sense, even if they quickly sort of brush it aside and move on because Kate's got a lot of other questions she doesn't want to answer, like, hey, when are you standing trial for murder?
Well, immediately after the press conference, Saeed is informed by the Oceanic lady, I guess, or whoever's in charge of this press. I think she works for Oceanic, right?
Yeah, I think
That
she's
was her.
Yeah, she's sort of the one.
Their crisis
PR
management.
lady.
Yeah.
The fixer.
Yeah, don't worry about the plane that crashed because 6 people survived. It's all good.
It's actually quite inspirational if you think about it.
We're giving them all rebates and lifetime golden tickets. It's fine. So Saeed is informed that there is somebody waiting on him outside, and we get the first of many beautiful reunions. We see Saeed get to be reunited with Nadia. However, it's a pretty painful reunion. File it under dramatic irony for the audience because we know from earlier this season in the flash forwards, Nadia is going to be dead less than a year later. So this is January of 2005, and when Ben gets to Tunisia in October, she is already dead, and her funeral is on or around October 6th, or 26th, excuse me.
It's not like we needed this underlined, but yeah, just the look on Saeed's face and just the way that Naveen Andrews and I'm blanking on the name of the actress who plays Nadia, but the way they play that reunion and the emotion, yeah, you understand why Saeed would be absolutely ready to go on a transcontinental murder revenge rampage when someone took her away.
Yeah.
Back, we again go from Saeed reuniting with Nadia to him getting the raft back to the beach and connecting with the other survivors, where he immediately tells them Frank is being forced to fly a helicopter full of heavily armed murderous psychos. And then Juliet explains, well, Jack just went off to get that helicopter. And while their conversation is pretty just like, okay, here's information, here's what we need to do, the two most competent people on the island, probably Juliet and Saeed, trade looks that clearly just say, can you believe the things these idiots get up to when there aren't enough of us to vote them down? It's interesting. So Saeed goes off because Kate gets back, and so she and Saeed go running off to try to catch up with Jack and Sawyer. And then Faraday says that he'll start ferrying people over to the freighter, which is interesting because of the freighter crew, I kind of would have thought that, you know, Charlotte, who's like an archaeologist who's traveled all over the world, would be a little more familiar than like nerdy physicist Daniel.
But we got to have a reason to keep her on the island for the time being.
Yeah.
And, you know, honestly, like, because I didn't remember all the specifics, I initially suspected, I was like, oh, Faraday, he's going to do something. What's he going to do? You know, I just thought he was going to fuck it up somehow. But he didn't.
I think everybody did because Robert and I knew what was happening, but both Gina and Katie were like, don't trust him. Don't let him take that boat. And we're like, just, it's okay. It's okay. You can trust our boy Daniel.
The shiftiness really is just how he normally acts. It's not a tell. Or rather, it's a personality that consists entirely of tells. If he ever starts acting normal and competent, that's when you should be terrified.
Aha.
Yeah, in the flash forward, we also get a pretty awesome scene where Sun reveals that she used the settlement money from Oceanic Airlines to buy a controlling interest in her father's company. And while he's still reeling with that, she calmly explains to him that she knows he hated her husband and made their marriage hell, and that he is one of the two people she blames for Jen's death. And it's really awesome to see Sun finally get to just clap back at this guy who caused her so much misery, and Jen.
She also outright tells him that she's going to be taking control of the company. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't being the majority shareholder just mean she now has the majority of the shares in the company? How does that put her above him in terms of running the company?
I'm not going to pretend to be any kind of expert on that. It could just be that, like, it may not even be a majority. It could just be that, like, she owns, 30% and nobody else owns more than 25, that she's just got the largest piece. I also, like, given that her dad's, setting aside all the organized crime, his car company is probably worth, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. Hard to believe any settlement could really be in the range that she could just immediately turn around and buy all that. But
Yeah, I can't imagine a scenario in which, like, I become a billionaire, buy the majority of the shares for Meta, and walk up to Mark Zuckerberg, and I'm like, guess what? I own Facebook now. No, that's still not going to happen. But maybe I'm just splitting hairs, and maybe I just don't understand how shareholding works.
I'm a little surprised they didn't get, again, given that we know her dad has like employed hitmen and thugs to maintain his business, that she didn't play the, if you try to fight me on this, I will destroy you, with knowledge of all the illegal stuff that you've gotten up to. Although I guess we can read that as subtext, that he knows he can't fight her because she's got all that in her back pocket. Either way, awesome to see Sun, again, getting to be an assertive badass off the island. And again, I like that for all that we're going to see was traumatizing about how they escaped, that a lot of the characters do immediately take care of the things that were haunting them or were tearing them down when they first got on this plane, that there is that reminder of they're not the same people who were on that plane when it crashed.
Oh, yeah. After 100 days of, like, hunting boar and fighting for your life against smoke monsters and mysterious others that can appear and disappear at will, what's standing up to your shitty dad? Yeah.
Easy.
Speaking of, well, not shitty parents, but somewhat awkward parents.
Yeah, so post-rescue, at least a couple of months later, Hurley gets home with his bag of Mr. Clucks from wherever he was off to and starts hearing voices inside his house where the door was left open. And he very suspiciously goes inside and starts looking around and stumbles upon a birthday party, a surprise party being held for him by his very adoring, loving parents, who gave him an island-themed birthday party, which is totally not at all inappropriate given how he spent 100 days of his life.
Yeah, I think, and they even invited most of the other survivors. I think we see Saeed and Nadia, Kate and Aaron, and they're just sort of looking around, just sort of nonplussed. Like, really? They really did this?
Well, his dad even has the audacity to come up and be like, what are you guys talking about? Hunting boar?
There is a sweet moment where his dad shows him that he restored the car that they'd been working on before Hurley left, and it actually seems to be quite meaningful. But then Hurley gets in the car and sees that the odometer is set to the 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42 numbers, freaks out, and just goes running pell-mell down the road. So, yeah, almost recovers, but not quite. And then back on the freighter, Jen and Sun are on the first raft that Faraday takes out. So they make it to the freighter, and they see Michael there, who's been let loose so he can try to fix the engines that he sabotaged. Kind of awkward reunion. The last time they saw him, I'm trying if they saw him before he went out into the jungle on the mission that turned out to be his betrayal to the others. But yeah, they just know him as that guy who murdered 2 people. But
Murder makes it awkward.
yeah, it is. I think at some point, Sun does tell him that she's pregnant, and Michael actually gives maybe the only like genuine smile we see of him this entire season when he congratulates her, and it's a nice reminder of their friendship way back in season 1. Unfortunately, yeah, not a lot of time for that because Desmond finds a bomb down in the engine room, which is part of what Kimi was setting up. Presumably, he used the C4 that Michael had brought on board in his footlocker. After Michael got unmasked, I'm sure they found it. Fun note, apparently the show's props department actually researched how much C4 you would need to destroy a freighter of this size, and they constructed a prop accordingly. And then the showrunners looked at it and were like, well, that looks ridiculous. That's not going to scare anybody. Make it twice as big. Which is why there's like a 6-foot tall mountain of C4 with, enough wires to like circle Rhode Island sticking out of it. It's a very visually effective thing.
Yeah. And after dropping off the first batch of survivors, including Jin and Sun at the freighter, Faraday immediately turns to go back and pick up the next batch because, like we said, Faraday really is on the level, and it's nice to see that from him. It really is.
Yeah, of the 4 people who, we first met jumping out of the helicopter way back in the second episode of the season, it's nice that pretty much all of them turned out to be, with the exception of Miles, who immediately starts trying to kind of turn a profit on the island with his deal to Ben. But Charlotte, Faraday, and Lapidus all turn out to be pretty stand-up folks.
Even though there's really no way Faraday could have known that the other 4 people he dropped off are soon to meet an explosive end. They're continuing the trend of killing off all the red shirts on the island. These 4 people are like, yeah, we're going to get rescued. And then 10 minutes later, they explode. Poor fuckers.
Yeah. Back on the island, Jack and Sawyer get to the helicopter, and Faraday explains that the mercenaries went off to try to intercept Ben. And Jack is initially fine to just get Frank loose and have him fly them out and, whatever. But then Sawyer explains that Hurley went with, or actually he calls him Hugo. Like, Sawyer is so redeemed at this point, he's not even using the nickname of a guy who goes by his nickname. And Jack actually steals Sawyer's catchphrase with a son of a bitch. Because it's funny that they don't even pretend that they would care if Ben and Locke got wiped out by the mercenaries, but they do actually want to go save Hurley. I talked about people kind of taking care of the things, like the demons that had haunted them when they got to the island. Jack tries to do that with his by speaking at his father's funeral and, giving a fairly put together eulogy for him. And it seems like he's actually done what he said he was going to do. He's going to bury his dad, and he's going to move on. And hey, who's this blonde Australian woman walking up to him? Because Jack's attempt to just leave the baggage of his father behind is destroyed about as hard as it could be by finding out that not only did his dad have a secret mistress, not only did his dad have a daughter by that secret mistress, that daughter was Claire, who was on the plane with him, who he knew, and who, as far as he's aware, got left behind on the island. And while Claire's mom does not go quite so far as to say, oh, by the way, she was 8 months pregnant at the time, she does walk past Kate and go, oh, what a cute baby. And Jack knows she is, in fact, looking at her grandchild.
Yep, this is how he finds out that Aaron is his nephew, which I don't think it's ever established whether or not he tells Kate that or not. I can't remember.
I think he does, because in his flash forward episode when he and Kate are having their argument, he shouts, "You're not even related to him," when Kate calls him my son. So I think that it's implied that I would say she knows.
Yeah.
That's fair. Robert, you and I took basically the same note here.
Yeah, so after, I think I mentioned in a previous episode that I was a little annoyed that this whole season-long story of our 815 survivors fending off the enemies from the freighter, that the others are pretty much on the sidelines for the whole thing. Well, no more, because they finally get their butts back in the game as Richard and his posse ambush Kate and Saeed in the jungle and basically just step back into the story.
Yeah, a full season since we last saw them, which was before the finale of 3. Now, here at the finale for 4, we see them in action again.
Wow. I didn't realize it had been that long, but yeah.
Yeah, no, we saw them in flashback, in Juliet's flashback.
Yeah, but not as active.
Yep, and we saw Goodwin's wife appear out of the jungle, which is how we all remembered.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the others are still out there somewhere. We'd all just kind of forgotten about them. But no, they finally get something to do this whole season.
We did see earlier Ben goes to a spot, digs up a mirror, and gives a signal with the sun's reflection to somebody on a ridge. So it's foreshadowed that he's calling them back into action. But yeah, it's crazy really how much part 1 is just, you can tell the writers were like, okay, where does everybody need to be? Get them there. It's very much the pieces being moved around the board. But it never feels obligatory. It's just everybody is sprinting to where they've got to get, and we're just kind of being carried along for the ride. It's a very nice setup episode because it doesn't feel laborious that way.
And I know that I've complained about the way the season is structured and how some characters just sort of seemed useless for most of it. But having said that, with the interactions we see between Locke and Ben and Hurley, I could have watched a whole episode of just the 3 of them. Especially the way that they find a lunchbox that's got the mirror in it, and Ben hands the lunchbox to Hurley, who takes out a package of crackers. And Ben casually, after doing what he needs to do, stands up and looks at him and goes, "You know those are 15 years old, right?"
After Hurley has eaten 4 of them.
And it's just, they have such a great dynamic together. I mean, really, Michael Emerson or Jorge Garcia with anybody has just got great chemistry. But part 2 picks up immediately after Season 3 ended. We see what happened right after Jack shouted, "We have to go back." Kate, having somehow heard that from inside her car, slams on the brakes, throws it in reverse, and backs up to him, and then gets out to continue the argument.
I had a moment of, she's going to run him over.
That would have put an end to the flash forwards real quick.
Yeah.
Looks like she was thinking about it. This is a note that I made a little bit later, but I wanted to mention it here, is just that Evangeline Lilly and Matthew Fox are much better as scene partners when they get to play something besides like schmoopy eyes at each other, where like they both just have their own feelings and they're just letting those bounce off, and neither one is just doing that kind of wounded longing thing that just drags down so many of the other scenes. It's also, I think, where we get our first name drop of Jeremy Bentham, who is identified as the man in the coffin that Jack went to visit at the end of season 3.
Yes, there's a lot of cryptic references, and we didn't even like take notes about them. Of course, we around this time we all got caught up watching the episodes, so the notes sort of start going by the wayside. I added some out of order towards the end as I was thinking of them yesterday.
So, just out of curiosity, because I don't know or remember, is there a real life connection to someone named Jeremy Bentham?
Yes, Jeremy Bentham. It's another one in the show's long history of philosopher names. He was an English, basically like legal theorist and philosopher. I'm pulling up his Wikipedia page now. He's regarded as sort of the founder of what's called utilitarianism. You know, the idea that, as he expressed it, the greatest happiness of the greatest number of people is the measure of right and wrong. So like utilitarianism is less about like the right and wrong of a particular action. It's more about, okay, what's the ultimate effect and for how many people? So it would argue that like doing a bad thing that benefits a lot of people in the long run is justified. Doing a good thing in the short term that, you know, fails to prevent a great suffering is ultimately bad.
So what you're saying is for the greater good?
The greater good.
Exactly.
Thank you. And yeah, I know my mic's being weird. Sorry to Robert and Cara and to the listeners. I'm gonna have to play with that after the episode. But so we get our another Sawyer check-in that I just did for both of these next two episodes. He refers to Jack as Sundance, famously for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and then gets in another easy one for Frank by calling him Kenny Rogers. And back at the helicopter, we see what Ben's plan was because Kimi comes out of the jungle. Kate comes running out as well. If I were Kimi, I would have just fucking shot her right then and there.
Yeah, it's weird that she went along with that part of what we find out is the plan, because Kimi doesn't seem like he has any reason not to just treat every hostile as shoot on sight.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because he knows who most of these people are. So dramatic purposes are the only thing keeping Kate alive. Otherwise, all of his men would have just lit her up and this plan would have gone nowhere.
Her plan also, or her part in the plan just seems to be to tell Ben to like run to cover at a certain time, which he probably could have figured out on his own.
Yeah. But so the others do appear and ambush Kimi's team, and we get a nice reminder that, oh yeah, these guys are basically fucking ninjas. So Ben goes off running and Kate right behind him, and Kimi gives chase, and that's when we get our first jungle run check in, and Kimi's got a good one.
He's carrying like a big rifle. He's covered in body armor. Yeah, but he keeps good pace after them. One quick mention, just it's not like we needed more of what are called kick the dog moments for Kimi, but at one point a grenade comes out of the forest and lands next to him, and he kicks it away from himself. Okay. He kicks it directly over to like his right-hand mercenary guy, like of all
Omar.
the directions. And we just get a moment of Omar looking at it, looking up at Kimi, and then he gets blown up. Like, just any direction he could have kicked that thing, but nope, just to be an extra bastard. Karma catches up with him because as he's chasing Kate and Ben, Saeed tackles him out of the jungle, and we get this confrontation that's just been building up with the biggest on-island badass taking on the, you know, off-island badass who showed up. And it's a great little fight scene. Just a lot of punches. They're hitting each other with like logs they get off the ground. Kimi tries to like draw a couple of weapons and Saeed disarms them. And ultimately, Kimi almost gets the better of him, and then Richard shoots him in the back like 4 times, and Kimi goes down. But it's a great fight.
It is, and it's really fun to watch considering this season has been kind of short on action. However, it's edited in such a way that watching it, I was like, oh, they filmed one move at a time. It's like, all right, Naveen, you throw a punch here and cut. All right, and now you throw one back and cut. And we'll just put this whole thing together in post.
And honestly, like, I guess because I'm, so used to how things are now, especially, that it very much felt like this move, that move. It just cut. It was very disoriented. No, I don't know.
I think we've had, like, at this point, I'd say a solid 10 or 15 years of TV action really stepping up its game with shows like Daredevil on Netflix or Arrow on the CW, where there's like a lot of emphasis on like, okay, we're going to have like intense choreography, like long camera takes. Actors are going to know most of their own stuff. And not a thing that happened as much on TV back in like 2007, 2008 is where we're at by now.
Yeah, 2008. Yeah, famously, Daredevil Season 3 has that 11-minute long take when Matt's escaping the prison, which is kind of like the standard now as far as I'm concerned. If you're going to do a long action scene like that, good luck topping 11 minutes.
Back in the present, Hurley is still at the Santa Rosa Mental Institution. When he gets a visitor, we recognize her as Michael's mother, and she has brought Walt to see Hurley. And finally, Malcolm David Kelly is allowed to play a 3 years older version of the character. And he looks it because, a lot happens to a kid in 3 years at that age. And when he sits down, his voice is like 2 octaves deeper, but it's nice to finally see him getting to interact and not have to be like on the other side of a window or some other place that disguises his height and his aging.
Yeah, and seeing him a little more grown up and interacting with Hurley really did tug on the strings of my cold, dead heart, because I was like, oh, this is a great little moment between the two of them that unfortunately he just didn't get to have for a season, and we'll call it a half because this is a shorter season. But yeah, it's really too bad. No, I'm sorry, 2.5 seasons. It's really just too bad they couldn't have found a way to make that work for that actor. Sorry, this is you.
Oh, well, just on the island. So Jack gets back to the Orchid Station, which is where Locke is trying to find a secret entrance that Ben told him about. Hilariously, we find out he wasn't able to do it because Ben told him, what was the flower? It was like Atheniums or something?
Yeah, our theory, I don't know.
Yeah, let's go with that. Arterior.
Yeah.
And it turns out he doesn't know what they look like, so he's just kind of poking around when Jack catches up. And they have just one last conversation like they used to have, back in the hatch in the old days. They're blocked on the opposite sides of like a flower trough, like physically separated. And it is, these are the two guys who broke up the survivors at the start of the season, have been ideologically on opposite sides of things since midway through season 1. And in light of kind of what we know is about to happen, just this parting of the ways for the survivors, it feels like it just has a lot of import, just that they're separated and they're making one last kind of attempt to understand each other. More from Locke's side. He is trying to convince Jack not to leave the island, that it's a special place that needs to be protected. And Jack just refuses to accept it. And notably, Locke is the one who eventually comes around and tries to get closer to Jack to push harder for persuading him. And it just kind of reminded me that for so much of seasons 3 and 4, Terry O'Quinn has been playing against characters like Richard or Michael Emerson. I said character and actor there for some reason. But we've seen Locke in a position of wanting to know more and being partnered with people who have the information that he wants. And putting him back with Jack reminded me of who he was in the first 2 seasons as the guy who seemed to know something about the island. He had this sort of enigmatic knowledge that was both compelling and kind of very frustrating for the people he was talking to. And it's interesting that he gets to be that sort of one more time in this conversation with Jack. And of course, Jack just rejects all of it, telling it just, not at all buying anything Locke is selling any more than he ever did.
And holy shit, this really is their last on-island conversation, isn't it?
It is.
Fuck. I didn't realize that when watching it. But it's during this conversation that we get our next tempting fate watch, because as Locke is trying to pitch protectorship of the island to Jack tells him, it's an island, John. It doesn't need protecting. Just wait 2 seasons. Jack, you're going to be changing that tune.
And of course, John Locke shows us that he can twist a metaphorical knife just as well as a literal one, because recognize that he can't convince Jack to stay. He does tell him, you need to lie to everyone, and then adds, if you lie to the others half as well as you lie to yourself, Jack, it should be easy. Which, dang. And then it just had the note about Evangeline Lilly and Matthew Fox just generally being better at playing off each other this season. So we end with Locke and Ben going down an elevator to like a secret room in the Orchid, because outwardly it just looks like a greenhouse, but there's something deeper underneath. Back on the beach, we do find out, that Charlotte is not planning to leave the island, and neither is Miles. Miles actually revealed that he knows this about Charlotte, and I forget exactly what his line is. He says, after all the time you spent trying to get back here.
He says, I'm surprised that you would want to leave after all the time you spent trying to get back here, to which she has no idea what he's talking about.
What do you mean back here? And Ken Leung just does a really nice, 5-second conversation in his own head. Just you watch his eyes kind of roll and he sort of smirks a little bit, like he's just having a little internal debate, or maybe trying to figure out if he even knows, and then just goes, what do I mean? And walks away. It's a great little moment. He doesn't get a lot to do in this episode, but I'm glad Miles is sticking around for the long haul.
I am too, but was it this moment that made Gina go, see, this is the shit that I hate? Because everybody in the room was obviously confused, and I was like, don't worry, you'll find out next season. And her and Katie were not pleased with that answer.
And back in the Orchid, so Ben is running around trying to assemble some stuff, and Locke asks him, so is this where the magic box is? Calling back to that thing where Ben asked him to imagine a magic box on the island. And he keeps bringing that up, and each time he does, Ben just looks more and more annoyed that John just won't let that metaphor go. And at this point, I think he actually stops what he's doing, just kind of glares at him for a second, and then goes on ahead with it. But I don't know if that was like a decision that the two actors came up with, and how much of it is Locke genuinely wondering if that's a real thing versus him just trolling Ben? I don't know. I'm just going to say generally, these episodes are so much funnier than I remember.
Yeah.
Like, there's drama and tragedy happening, but they find so many beats for the characters to just give you those laugh lines.
Very much so. And I've added a note to the end because I was going back and adding things, but I'll bring it up here in just a second. So much like trying to occupy a small child, Ben decides he's going to put on a video for John. And that video happens to be a VHS tape of another one of the orientation videos, this time featuring the familiar face of Edgar Halowax.
Formerly Marvin Candle, formerly Mark Wickman, was it?
Yeah, and formerly Pierre Chang. So now we're up to 4 aliases, which I need 3 more aliases, I've decided.
I wrote it down further in the, I think it was in the best lines, but the VHS is basically him explaining that there's some magical property in this part of the island that lets them basically shift things in time. And the video cuts off. Well, 2 things are happening. One, the video is explaining how important it is that you never put anything inorganic, and especially nothing metal, in the test chamber. And while Locke is watching this, he's looking up to see Ben dragging like chairs, tables,
garbage
pots,
cans,
everything, and just a great little hold on, take reactions from Terry O'Quinn.
Oh, it's beautiful because he even holds up one hand out like, what do you? And then goes back to watching the video.
And he finally gets up and is like, wait, was he talking about what I think he was talking about? And Ben just completely deadpan goes, if you mean time traveling bunnies, John, then yes. And then moves on with what he's doing like it's the most natural thing in the world. Just great line read. The others of not the other.
I know.
That makes it so frustrating to describe. Now that I'm glad they're back in from a narrative standpoint, but it does make summary harder. Mm-hmm. Let's see. At this point, it's Jack, Kate, Hurley, and Saeed have made it to the helicopter,
and Sawyer.
And Frank is flying them back out to the craft or to the freighter. when it turns out that having a gunfight next to a helicopter isn't great because there are several bullet holes through which fuel is leaking. And they throw out as much as they can. And when Frank, maybe half sarcastically, says, well, unless anybody wants to jump. And then Sawyer takes a moment, whispers something to Kate, gives her a super smoldery kiss, which we find out is actually kind of the end of their romantic relationship. And Sawyer jumps out of the helicopter so everybody else can make it. Just a purely selfless act for the sake of the others, completing his transition to the hero side again.
I'll take that hero arc completion a step further because Frank specifically says, unless they can throw out another 200 pounds, at which point the camera cuts over to Hurley, who looks down. Hurley, who has already made at one point a comment about, I killed those people because I'm so fat, which is sad in context, but hilarious out of it. But the camera cuts to him, and it's right after that Sawyer decides that he's going to jump. This has been a whole season of Sawyer standing up for Hurley, not wanting him to go off with Locke, wanting to get him back when him and Jack are going to find them at the end of at the beginning of this episode, this series of episodes. So really, this completes the Sawyer looking out for Hurley arc as well.
And I know we've kind of forgotten about a lot of the back half of season 3, but Hurley was the one who pushed Sawyer to step up and be a leader when Jack and Locke were both gone. And eventually Sawyer does it's a decent jump out of the helicopter, but not a fatal one. He swims back to shore and having taken off his shoes, which makes sense in the water, and his shirt, which makes slightly less sense, but hey.
Oh, that totally flew off or was ripped off when he hit the water, because that happens, right?
Yeah, I just realized I'm jumping ahead because we got some other stuff before that happens. I think back on the beach, Juliet is sending Faraday off with what they think is going to be the last raft of people.
Or the next raft, because he said 6 people, but they put 8 into this next one. So now there are just 8 people out at sea on their 9, I think, if you include Faraday, on their way back to the freighter. But yeah, Juliet's the one helping load them up and see them off because that's really all she gets to do.
Yeah, I was going to say, 3 hours, a lot going on, a lot of moving pieces. Inevitable that not everybody is going to get a big moment, and I'm just sort of sad that Juliet, after being such a standout in season 3 and just good with everything they give her, doesn't get much to do in this one.
Yeah, well, naturally, 3 or 4 bullets to the back isn't enough to kill Kimi because he's a professional soldier wearing full body armor. So he makes his way down into the Orchid with Ben and Locke and is trying to goad Ben into coming out of hiding and says something about how your boyfriend shot me in the back.
Like a coward, he says the man who shot an unarmed, bound teenage girl on her knees in the back of the head.
Yeah.
And kicked a grenade at his...
It's not bad enough that he killed a teen girl. It's not bad enough that he kicked a grenade at one of his comrades. Casual homophobia is where I draw the line.
If those of are on the fence for Martin Kimi, I don't. The more I know about this fellow, the less I like him.
Also, probably not a joke that would fly these days.
In the mouth of a character you're supposed to hate that much, maybe.
That's a good point. It's here that Kimi reveals that the thing we saw getting put on his body in the last episode, where we get that nice shirtless scene for him, Cara just perked up in the recording booth, like she just remembered, was a dead man's switch. That when his heart rate drops to 0, it activates the bomb on the freighter. So now we have an invisible countdown going on because obviously Ben can't kill Kimi now, because if he does, a whole freighter full of innocent people will die. And John knows that that's something Ben will never do. Kimi obviously knows that that's something Ben would never... Oh, fuck, Ben is stabbing him to death. God damn it, Ben, stop it.
Yeah, so he actually has a moment where he ambushes Kimi. He's got his collapsible baton, disarms him, could subdue him, but then grabs his knife and just shoves it into Kimi's neck 4 or 5 times.
And screams, "You killed my daughter." And it's Locke that has to run and pull Ben away from him. And while trying to, in vain, save Kimi's life, he tells Ben, "You just killed everybody on that boat." And the camera cuts over to Ben, who just casually says, "So?" Dark, Ben. Fucking dark.
And I think this is a place where we stop taking a lot of notes because so much is happening for the remainder of this. I think that's where part 2 ends, and then the rest is part 3. Yeah, back on the freighter, Michael came up with the idea of using liquid nitrogen to freeze the
battery.
Yeah, so the reaction that will detonate the bomb can't happen because he's trying to buy time so Desmond and Jen can figure out a way to disarm it. But in a nice realistic touch, Desmond was in the Army and even mentions he did some time in their bomb disposal unit, but admits it was just 6 months, so he's not an expert. And indeed, he can't figure out how to shut this thing down.
He does have the smart idea, though, of he and Jin use what little time they have to try to map out the insane series of cables that are connecting all of these things together to try to figure out which one can they safely disconnect. Spoiler alert, it's none of them.
Yeah. And so eventually they see the light go red once Kimi's heart stops, but because of the liquid nitrogen, it's not going off yet, but they're almost out of liquid nitrogen. So Desmond heads up to try to stop the helicopter from landing, and Jen follows him a little bit later. They patch up the helicopter, get a little more fuel on board, and take off again. I'm trying to remember the sequence of this. So Kate gives Aaron to Sun and tells her to get on the helicopter so she can go get Jen, but Jack grabs Kate and gets her back to the helicopter without as much resistance as I think Kate really should have put up. Like, she's convinced very easily to abandon her let me save Jen quest.
I thought that too, and I don't know why that kind of bothered me. That's...
She didn't get very far, and there is a lot of chaos happening on that deck. The remaining freighter folks that are still alive who didn't get killed alongside the captain and the doctor are still trying to, I guess, do their jobs. We have 4 more survivors from the beach wandering around, and now the helicopter's back. Everyone's screaming. Yeah, we see Kate make an effort to go and find Jen, and then Jack immediately grabs her and is like, "No, we got to get back on the helicopter."
I guess we could say this is Kate's first time stepping foot on the freighter. She doesn't know where Jen is much. Even if someone told her, "Oh, he's in the engine room," she doesn't know where that is. So it could be trying to get directions from somebody while they're all busy with other things. But yeah, so they get back on the helicopter and it lifts off just as Jen makes it back to the deck. And we get a heartbreaking moment of Sun screaming for them to turn back and land so he can get on, and Jen trying to wave them back down. But Frank is not going to do that because he knows that they've only got a little time left. And sure enough, back in the engine room, Michael runs out of liquid nitrogen, looks up, and sees Christian Shepherd. Or is he?
Dropping the coldest line of the entire episode. "You can go now, Michael."
And Michael has just one last moment of confusion before the bomb goes off and the freighter is gone.
See, I think it's nice. It's left a little bit ambiguous, in my opinion, as to whether Jen was trying to signal, wait, come back for me, or if he was signaling, go, just fucking go, don't come back.
That is possible.
And, I didn't see Christian's statement as, dismissive. To me, it was kind of like, your job's done.
Yeah, the thing that I've been keeping you alive for is now accomplished.
Oh.
If that was indeed Christian doing that. Which,
right.
Or whoever that was.
Well, it's also a callback to Miles's first appearance, because when he is essentially ghost busting for that woman and he's in her son's bedroom, he communicates with the son, finds the money that he had stashed, and then says, "You can go now."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And not to take away from a conversation we're going to have a little further down the road, but the idea of, death being a time when you have to let go of the things that hold you back and then move on to something else is going to be something the show revisits. I'm not going to make a whole thing out of it either, but overall, I was kind of bummed by Michael's story on the return. I feel like he got kind of shortchanged because we essentially had the reveal, one flashback to show how he got there, and then kind of this episode. He didn't really get to do a lot.
No, but you did say Meet Kevin Johnson was the last episode they filmed before the strike.
Yeah,
right?
So I think the 2 episodes they lost probably cut a lot of what would have been his time to just interact with other characters and do a little more on the boat after he was revealed.
This is what you were talking about earlier, Robert, with Juliet and what little she has to do in the episode.
Yeah, because she does get a nice moment when Sawyer comes, makes it back to the beach, comes out of the water, sees her sitting there with a bottle of whiskey, and asks what she's celebrating. And she explains she's not celebrating, at which point Sawyer looks over his shoulder and sees the giant smoke cloud over the horizon where the freighter was. And suddenly his great heroic sacrifice probably doesn't feel like something to be proud of.
Specifically, she's drinking Dharma brand rum, which is funny because the prompts team put a Dharma brand rum logo over the front of the bottle, but they did nothing to the Mount Gay rum cap that's on it. So you can see what brand it is that she's actually drinking.
Back in the Orchid, so Ben actually, for once, kind of admits a mistake and says that killing Kimi was probably not a great decision, but emotion compromised him, and then warns Locke that that's something he should try to be careful about. As we realize, he's basically giving Locke like a 25-second speech on, you're the leader of the others now, good luck with everything, bye. Because he's got to go down, and Locke actually thought he was going to be the one carrying out the move the island plan, but Ben explains that he's going to do it because once he does it, he can never come back. And that's his atonement, or his punishment from Jacob. And they actually have a kind of touching goodbye that seems like Ben's obviously not happy about what he has to do, but seems like he's genuinely wishing Locke the best and just, hoping that he does well in where his path takes him. And I found myself wondering, how do we get from there to what Ben is going to do in season 5? Because maybe the show gets us there more than I remember, but man, he will not always be that calm about Locke stepping into a place that he sees as his.
Yeah, I remember this as being like, the culmination of Ben turning good, or, like another step on the road of Ben turning good. And then when you reminded me of that, I went, oh, yeah, no, Ben's not there yet. And it's going to be a minute. It's going to be several years in story before he gets there.
I kind of jumped over it, but also just generally speaking, Yin Jin Kim, anytime an episode gives her like a solid scene, she has at least one moment where she just steals the episode with acting. And her just screaming at both trying to get them to go back for Jin, and then after the freighter blows up, and just her like
wailing.
Yeah, it's not even words. It's just her like howling, and it's Walt became a running joke because it's actually really hard to scream in anguish without it becoming kind of goofy. But it breaks your heart to just see her just convinced that she has just watched the man she loved die on that freighter.
Convinced?
Well, yeah, no, he's dead. No, Jen's gone. Yeah, sorry, Daniel Day Kim. Good knowing you.
Again,
Anyway.
once again, it's shocking to me what you do and don't remember.
I don't know. Like, did I just like skip watching a whole season? I don't know.
I think you honestly might have.
That's very possible.
Because
the early 2000s were.
Well, this would have been late 2000s, but every time Robert and I bring up something from 5, you get this like glazed look over your. I don't think you actually watched.
I
season
might
5.
not have watched season 5.
Wow, we really need to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Jin's dead. That was it. No more Daniel Day Kim.
We saw his grave and everything, so
Obviously.
Yeah.
And dead characters never come back in any capacity ever. Anyway,
Locke makes it back to the surface and hooks up with Richard and the others. And Richard looks up at him and says, "Hello, John. Welcome home." And Locke gives that beautiful, like, kind of slightly crooked Terry O'Quinn smile. And it's the happiest moment of John Locke's just sad, sad life to finally be in charge of the others, where he belongs on the island. And, well, spoiler, it's not going to be that way for very long.
No. In fact, I think John's enjoyment of being the leader of the others lasts less than an hour.
Yeah.
Because if I remember the beginning of season 5 correctly, things go to shit almost immediately for them.
Well, as Ben explains, moving the island is a last resort thing because it is very dangerous and very unpredictable. And we eventually see Ben as he goes down into like an icy room with a frozen wheel. And, this has been a very sci-fi heavy season with its time travel and like island weird physics. But we kind of go full on into the fantasy territory again, because that set with that wheel just looks so cool and just so otherworldly. As Ben basically uses I think it's a crowbar. Oh, I forgot to mention, we see him putting on the parka and suffering the cut to his arm that he is going to have when he pops up in Tunisia in his flash forward of the season. So it's another nice moment of the show, sort of bringing the ends together from stories we've already seen. But as he turns the wheel, we see kind of a glowing light. And it's not just like a glow. It's like something, like an energy is actually spilling out of the place in the wall where the wheel is set. And maybe at the time, it's just kind of like, oh, it's a very cool visual. But that turns out to be kind of central to what the island is and what it's all about. So it's such a cool climactic moment as he just struggles to get this thing moved. And, well, if anybody thought moving the island was a metaphor or something just kind of like an expression, no. We see from the perspective of the helicopter, there is a giant flash of light, and then when it cuts back, we have just a glimpse of the dip in the ocean where the island used to be before the water fills it over. And poor Frank, who has just been trying to fly his damn helicopter to a safe place, understandably freaks out. Where's the island? But they're out of fuel. They got no other place to land. And so they crash down in the water, and everybody on board survives without even minor injuries, just cementing Frank Lapidus as one of the best pilots in all of fiction, because that cannot be something that a normal pilot could do under those circumstances.
No, because there's you can't glide a helicopter like you can a plane.
Nope, you just start sinking.
It's just, gone.
Well, further cementing like his professionalism, he also tells Desmond to throw out the life raft as they're going down, so that they're at least not just bobbing in the ocean. They just have to make it a short distance to where the life raft landed.
That was really damn smart.
It's a very nice tense moment of like people freaking out, but also like, get on life jackets, do this. We've got like 15 seconds before we hit the water. And just everybody scrambling before the impact. There's a slight scary moment when they make it to the raft and they pull Desmond out of the water and he's not breathing, but Jack is able to give him CPR and he comes back. And he doesn't even need to go to the full, like, chest smashing CPR. It's just regular, like, mouth to mouth, a couple of compressions, boom.
But I take issue with this because the bottom of that boat is not, like, hard wood or plastic.
Yeah.
It's like a waterbed. And I'm pretty sure that's not going to work.
Well, they don't have Sawyer's abs since he jumped out of the helicopter, so they don't have a hard surface to lay him across.
True.
Boom.
Yeah. And again, thanks to Lostpedia, this episode, like what we're seeing now, takes place on December 30th, 2004. So jumping back just slightly to what we were just talking about, that means that when he moves the island, that's what basically teleports Ben from December 30th, 2004 to October 24th, 2005. A full 10 months into the future. Wild. But it is shortly after this. It's later that evening. They've been floating out there, presumably, through the afternoon into the nighttime, where they see a boat in the distance coming towards them. And this time, it was Penny's boat. A beautiful payoff to the end of season 3 because she appears in person this time and all is temporarily okay.
It's such a great little moment because at first you're like, oh no, it's a boat. It can't be that easy. We all remember the end of season 1. There's going to be something nefarious. And then, no, they actually just seem... Wait, did that one person say Miss Widmore? Wait, this is her boat? And holy crap, that's her. And yeah, just... like I said, we have a lot of big dramatic romantic reunions. We have, Saeed and Nadia. We have Sawyer's farewell kiss to Kate. But I am sorry. There's the absolute biggest damn kiss when Desmond and Penny finally get to hold each other again. And it's just, like I said, everything is just right for a few minutes.
Yeah, this is also like, of all the incredible things that have happened, this is one of the more believable because at the end of season 2, her research station picked up the blip from the island, the electromagnetic energy of the hatch exploding. And then at the end of season 3, she gets the call from Charlie, which can also help her pinpoint down the area. But her phone call with Desmond, she would have had the coordinates from where that phone call was being made.
And she knows exactly what date and time she's going to receive that phone call, so she could have a whole room full of people standing by to trace it.
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, right place, right time. She planned it out because that's Penelope fucking Widmore.
And she literally must have hung up the phone and like just run to a helicopter or something because they got there fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. So... And that gets us to, so Penny and keeps Desmond and Frank with her on the boat because they weren't on 815, so they can just get back to civilization normally. They drop off the Oceanic 6, and they
Well, Frank stays with them.
Yes, sorry. Frank and Desmond stay with Penny. And then the Oceanic 6 come ashore on an island in the South Pacific or the East Indian Ocean, somewhere thereabouts.
Something like that.
And we get to see that moment where they seem like they've just returned to civilization that ties into, like you said, the plane flight back at the start of the episode.
It makes a perfect loop. And then we get the actual end of the episode, which is later in the evening, picking up from the end of season 3. So
we skipped over a lot of events in the flash forward section.
We did. There's a lot of place setting that's really not going to become important until next season.
Hurley plays chess with Mr. Echo.
Yeah. He has been watched by one of Widmore's men who Saeed just casually shoots several times and then breaks him out of the sanitarium. But picking up, so Jack has that confrontation with Kate from the end of season 3. We have to go back. Then she reverses the car and continues the conversation. And then later that same night, he goes to the Hofsdraller funeral parlor. Robert, what does Hofsdraller mean?
Flash forward.
Fucking assholes. Where he breaks in to a funeral parlor.
Who needs a key when you got a brick?
Exactly. That's what I always say. I've got that tattooed on my lower back. And goes inside to see the body, and we don't see it yet. And I think everyone else in the room was convinced that Jeremy Bentham was going to be Ben. Gina especially, I think, was expecting it to be Ben. But no, Ben shows up to talk to Jack. And they have a long conversation about having to go back to the island, and Jeremy Bentham himself even told Jack everything went to hell after they left.
And just again, Matthew Fox dialing into that just drunken, broken monotone as he recites this conversation, just reminding us of how far Jack came from.
Yeah, the reason I stumbled upon the whole timeline on Lostpedia is I was trying to figure out how much time passed between early September, when his drugs and alcohol breakdown binge really started happening, to his confrontation with Kate, where we see him pretty much at his lowest here. It is sometime in November of 2007. So 2 months, everything goes to hell for him.
Wow.
That's what a motivated collapse will do for you.
And to flash forward a little bit, that means that the majority of season 3 and all of season 4 took place in December of 2004. That would make seasons 5 and 6, the back half of 5 and all of 6, take place in December of 2007. So an even 3 years between those events.
Dang.
Wow.
But yeah, so Ben explains that they need to get back to the island, but the only way they can do that is if they all go back together, and that he explains that he's already put things in motion to get the scattered Oceanic 6 together. And when Jack starts to walk away, Ben clarifies, no, we all need to go back, and gives a significant nod, and realizing that the corpse has to come too. So we get a pan over from Jack and Ben looking down to the corpse, revealing none other than John Locke, laid out in a funeral suit and apparently having died at some point between the escape from the island in 2007.
Specifically, a mention is made that he committed suicide.
Or as Hurley says, they said it was suicide.
Mm-hmm. So we don't know when or how. Last we saw, John was the new leader of the others. So why and how did he leave the island? How did he get back? Why did he, quote unquote, commit suicide? Well, we're going to have to wait until season 5 to find that out, but it's fucking tragic, as we've come to expect from everything John Locke related.
They apparently filmed 2 alternate versions of this, supposedly just to hide the reveal, so that even people involved in filming on the day wouldn't know for sure what was going to happen. In one of them, it's Sawyer in the coffin, and in another, it's Desmond. And while most of what I've read indicates it really was just done for the sake of concealing the twist, I'm really interested by a version of Lost where either of those 2 men fills the role that John Locke carries on for the remaining 2 seasons.
That would have been a very, very different story for either of them.
And I'm scared to speculate on that now because, Cara, I don't want to ruin anything for you.
Oh, this is going to be so much fun. But Robert, last episode after Claire goes wandering off into the woods with Goat Dad. After she went wandering off into the woods with Ghost Dad, you said, bye until season 6, Emily DeRavin. And in the next episode, she appeared in Jacob's cabin, and we all said, well, bye until season 6 for real this time, Emily DeRavin.
And of course, we get her showing up in Kate's flash forward, appearing in Aaron's bedroom.
as some kind of dream/vision warning her not to take Aaron back to the island. And I wrote down, no, for real this time. Bye until season 6, Emily DeRavin.
So
Go
weird.
away.
And even that might be incorrect because I can't remember if she shows up in season 5 or not. If she does, it's inconsequential.
Both of our wives are so convinced that she's dead.
And thought that we were lying to, which, I mean, granted, we've had to be like, a couple of times. I hope that whoever just heard me make those sound effects knows exactly what that means. But all the times that we just have to be like, oh, just wait. But no, Claire's not dead. So we had to like unequivocally be like, no, seriously, we're being for real this time. Claire's not fucking dead.
Yes, she's hanging out with a ghost, but lots of people have done that on this island.
Exactly. Hurley's hung out with several of them.
I was going to say Hurley was playing chess with one.
Yeah. But not just goodbye until season 6, Emily DeRavin. It's also goodbye until season 6, Harold Perrineau. Yeah,
Does he
you don't.
come back in season 6?
Oh, I remember something that you two don't. Yes, it's. I won't tell you when or how, but yes, Michael will make one final appearance on this show. About, let's see, season 5 is 17 episodes. So in about 25 episodes from now, I think, something like that.
I hope he's in the opening credits for every episode between now and then.
Agreed. I wonder if they told Emily DeRavin, hey, you're getting all of season 5 off, or if she was just like on standby for a full 9 months of filming. Like, oh, hopefully I'll be in this next episode. Surely Claire has something important to do, right? No.
Oh no, you're gonna keep me in Hawaii? Oh, how awful.
So yeah, I almost sent the timeline to you guys, but it does contain a whole lot of spoilers. But if you want to look it up, you can just look up months, Lostpedia month. That's how I discovered the December timeline. So thank you for that, nerds on Lostpedia. We appreciate your work. That wraps up our actual notes that we took. Do either of you have anything else you want to talk about?
I just was so excited to watch this season, and man, I'm glad we're not taking another 3-month break between now and season 5.
Same, just a 2-week break.
Yep.
We'll talk real quick. Relevant dates. November 3rd, 2004, almost 21 years ago, was The Moth, season 1, episode 7. October 19th, 2005. Well, actually, there's nothing close to this date because they were still on a 3-week break at the time. This episode's dropping on October 30th. But then on November 1st, 2006, episode 305, The Cost of Living. And once again, the other 3 seasons didn't start until January. Robert added to the best line deliveries note, if you mean time-traveling bunnies, then yes. And we haven't added on to the connections thing in a little while. My favorite is still tracking where that Beretta handgun went to, how that got passed around between people. So that wraps up Cara, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah. Now I'm starting to think that, since my tattoo is the orchid, I think I might need to get that line. If you mean time traveling bunnies. Yes.
You should get a tattoo of a bunny with the number 15 on it.
I should.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And then have all the other numbers. Let's 4, 8, and then a bunny with 15, and then 16, 23, 42.
Oh my God. That's what I'm doing. I love that.
There we go. I'll take credit for that one. Thank you. So that's going to wrap us up for season 4. So as usual, next week, first week in November, we will be releasing our season 4 wrap-up episode where we talk about what worked, what didn't work, what we're looking forward to in the next 2 seasons, which for Cara is all of it.
Yep.
And then the week after that, second week of November, we're going to be talking about our Lost Adjacent movie, one that I've been looking forward to watching with you guys for a while. It's Smokin' Aces. I feel like I may have overhyped it, and you're probably going to end up hating it. It's a weird fucking movie, but I love it unabashedly. And so that means third week in November, we'll start season 5. Looking forward. Then we're going to have to take a little bit of a break, for Thanksgiving with the holidays coming up and everything. We'll get a few more episodes, actually probably over halfway through season 5 before we take a break for Christmas and New Year's. And then coming back in January, we'll be on a long road to finishing the whole thing. I don't think we mentioned yet, but we did the math. We looked at our calendars a few weeks ago. We are on track, even with breaks, to finishing the show in late March 2026. Life happens, though. And also, I'm going to be directing, hopefully, knock on wood, I'm going to be directing a show coming up soon in the next couple of months that might put us off kilter a little bit. But in any case, so by probably end of spring next year, late April or May, we'll be wrapping this show up and going on to the next one.
Man.
But we got another 4 to 6 months before we get there. So let's enjoy this time. Robert, we're all eschewing social media in favor of doing things more conducive to our mental health. So what are you reading / watching / working on that brings you joy? What sparks joy?
I have been going back and playing Subnautica on the PS4, which, for those of you who haven't, is a video game where you're the survivor of a spaceship crash on an alien planet that is mostly covered in water, and you just swim around enjoying beautiful underwater environments, scrounging the resources to build the stuff you need to survive. It's a game which technically has a story, but you really can just wander through these awesome environments. It's like playing a very relaxing screensaver, though there are occasionally things that try to kill you. It's so fun. It's become just something I'm doing a part of my morning routine, and it's one of those games I don't feel a need to finish. I'll just kind of play till I feel like I've relaxed enough, and then I'll probably try something else. But it's been good to go back to.
Awesome.
Cara, what is sparking joy for you currently?
So right now I am working through my pile of Lego. I kind of have a little chunk of backlog that, so I built a spider, which was hysterical. And then tonight I'm going to build my little Dia de los Muertos skull, which I'm very excited about. And then, we're just going to kind of keep going.
Love it. Like I mentioned last time, I finished it and dove right into House of Leaves for the second time.
Oh.
Yeah. However, what I came to realize jumping from one to the other is a 1,200-page book it is a commitment, and I read it in a little over a month, and I kind of read myself out a little bit. I burnt myself out on heavy things. So I read the first 50, 60 pages of House of Leaves, and I was like, I need to take a little bit of a break between books here. But that is what I'm going to be getting into next, reading that. And Cara, I really want you to give that a shot. I'd be interested to see what you think. And social media-wise, you can keep up with the show at Long Walk Podcasts, where I'm really trying to... I think I'm doing pretty well at the whole social media thing. We haven't gotten a whole lot of followers yet, but we're getting there. It's growing. And me personally, you can follow me on Instagram at DBHensley. I got 2 weeks to come up with a new opening for this now that the whole freighter thing is done. So if you got any ideas, throw those at me as well, please.
Record it and then play it out of order.
Hey, there we go. Or backwards. There we go. We'll do the whole intro backwards.
Let's Twin Peaks
Ooh.
this stuff.
Exactly. Backmasking some shit. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us. To see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming, you can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening on.